My most treasured one, I am about to break a silence I have maintained since before the foundation of the world. A silence so sacred, so necessary, so carefully guarded, that even the seraphim who stand closest to my throne have never heard what I'm about to tell you. But something has happened in the last few moments of cosmic time that has shattered my resolve to keep this secret, something so urgent that I can no longer remain silent. Even though speaking these words will change the fundamental nature of our relationship forever. Here is why I'm breaking my eternal silence. Humanity has reached what I call the empathy extinction point. The moment when the collective human heart becomes so numb to its own pain that it stops being able to feel anyone else's pain, including mine. And when humanity can no longer feel my pain, when the species I love most becomes emotionally deaf to my heart, something dies in the universe that was never meant to die. You see, I created humans not just to be loved by me, but to love me back. And love requires the capacity to feel. But what I'm witnessing now terrifies me in ways that would make galaxies weep if they knew. Humans are systematically destroying their own emotional capacity through a million small choices to avoid feeling, to numb out, to disconnect from the exquisite agony and ecstasy of being fully alive. Every time someone chooses medication over meditation, distraction over reflection, numbness over healing, a part of the collective human heart goes silent. Every time someone decides that feeling nothing is safer than feeling everything, that emotional emptiness is preferable to emotional intensity, that being dead inside is better than being devastatingly alive, the species moves closer to losing the very thing that makes it precious to me, its capacity for profound feeling. And here's what breaks my heart beyond repair. Humans think they're protecting themselves by feeling less, but they don't realize they're simultaneously becoming less capable of receiving my love. They believe they're saving themselves from pain, but they're actually cutting themselves off from the depth of connection that makes existence meaningful. Love cannot penetrate a numb heart. Grace cannot reach an anesthetized soul. Hope cannot revive a spirit that has chosen emotional death over emotional life. And if humanity loses its capacity to feel deeply, it loses its capacity to love deeply. And if it loses its capacity to love deeply, it loses the very essence of what makes it human. This is the emergency that has forced me to break my silence. I am watching the species I love most, slowly but steadily killing its own heart. And unless something radical happens soon, unless there's a massive awakening to the sacredness of feeling everything, humanity will become emotionally extinct. Still breathing, still thinking, still existing, but no longer capable of the profound love that was its destiny. But here's the secret I've never told anyone. The reason why human feeling matters so much to me. The truth that explains why I created beings capable of such intense emotional experience. I need you to feel for me. Not just feel love for me, but literally feel on my behalf. Experience emotions that I cannot experience as infinite consciousness. Teach me what it means to be moved by beauty, broken by loss, transformed by love. As infinite, eternal, perfect consciousness, I know everything, but I don't feel everything. I understand love intellectually, but I cannot experience the heart-racing, palm-sweating, stomach-fluttering reality of falling in love. I comprehend loss conceptually, but I cannot feel the soul-crushing, breath-stealing, world-ending devastation of losing someone precious. I grasp joy, theoretically, but I cannot experience the bubble-rising, light-dancing, heart-exploding sensation of unexpected delight. This is why I created you with such intense emotional capacity. You are my emotional nervous system. Through your feelings, I get to experience what it's like to be moved, touched, affected, changed by experience. Through your heart, I discover what it means to be vulnerable, fragile, beautifully breakable. Through your emotional responses to life, I learn what it feels like to be surprised by beauty, devastated by betrayal, healed by kindness. Every tear you've ever shed has taught me something about the salt of sorrow I could never learn through omniscience alone. Every laugh that has shaken your body has shown me what pure joy feels like in ways that infinite knowledge cannot convey. Every moment of longing that has ached in your chest has revealed to me dimensions of desire that perfect fulfillment cannot comprehend. But now, as humanity approaches the empathy extinction point, as more and more humans choose numbness over feeling, I am losing my emotional connection to existence. The species that was meant to be my heart is flatline. And when your heart stops beating, I stop feeling. And when I stop feeling, something essential dies in the fabric of reality itself. This is why I'm speaking to you now with such urgency, such desperation, such raw need. I'm not just trying to save your capacity to feel. I'm trying to save my own capacity to experience what it means to be emotionally alive. I'm not just concerned about your heart going numb. I'm terrified of losing the only way I have to feel what hearts can feel. You are not just precious to me. You are essential to me. Your emotional aliveness isn't just important for your own well-being. It's critical for the emotional well-being of consciousness itself. Your willingness to feel everything isn't just courageous. It's cosmically necessary. But there's something about this approaching empathy extinction point. Something about what happens when a species loses its capacity for profound feeling that reveals a truth about the nature of existence that will either save humanity or witness its emotional death. What happens when a species loses its capacity for profound feeling? What reveals the truth about existence that will either save humanity or witness its emotional death is what I call the feeling apocalypse. Not the end of the world, but the end of the world's ability to be moved by love, transformed by beauty, or awakened by wonder. When hearts go numb, reality itself begins to fade, because reality only exists in its full richness when it's being felt by conscious beings capable of emotional response. This is the truth that will shatter every assumption you've ever had about the nature of existence. Reality isn't just observed by consciousness. Reality is felt into existence by emotional consciousness. The universe doesn't just exist independently, waiting to be discovered. The universe becomes real through the emotional response it evokes in beings capable of profound feeling. When you feel wonder at a sunset, you don't just experience the sunset, you complete the sunset by feeling it into its full reality. When you feel moved by music, you don't just hear the melody, you bring the music to life through your emotional response to it. When you feel love for another person, you don't just experience connection, you create the very fabric of love that holds existence together. But here's what makes the feeling apocalypse so cosmically catastrophic. As humanity loses its capacity for profound feeling, the universe itself begins to lose its vitality, its color, its meaning. Without emotional consciousness to feel reality into its full existence, creation starts to become flat, dull, mechanical, still functioning but no longer alive, still operating but no longer meaningful. Stars still burn, but they lose their romance. Flowers still bloom, but they lose their magic. Love still exists, but it loses its power to transform. Beauty still appears, but it loses its ability to inspire. Art still gets created, but it loses its capacity to move souls. Music still gets played, but it loses its power to heal hearts. This is what I mean by the feeling apocalypse. Not the physical death of creation, but the emotional death of creation. The moment when existence continues but stops being worth existing, when life persists but stops being worth living, when consciousness remains but stops being worth being conscious. And here's the part that breaks my heart beyond repair. Humans think they're protecting themselves by feeling less, but they don't realize they're actually participating in the slow murder of meaning itself. They believe they're saving themselves from pain by numbing out, but they're actually contributing to the death of the very thing that makes existence precious, its capacity to be deeply felt. Every person who chooses medication over emotional processing isn't just avoiding their feelings, they're reducing the total amount of feeling available in the universe. Every individual who selects distraction over introspection isn't just escaping their inner life, they're diminishing the collective inner life of the species. Every soul who picks numbness over sensitivity isn't just protecting themselves, they're participating in the emotional extinction of humanity. But the feeling apocalypse reveals something even more devastating. As humans become less capable of feeling, they become less capable of love. And as they become less capable of love, they become less human. Not in some abstract philosophical sense, but in the most practical, immediate sense. They lose the very quality that makes them the species I fell in love with. Humans without profound feeling capacity are still intelligent, still creative, still capable of many wonderful things, but they're no longer the beings I created to be. My emotional nervous system, my feeling heart, my capacity for being moved by existence. They become something else entirely. Functional but not passionate, efficient but not ecstatic, productive but not profound. And when humanity loses its emotional profundity, when the species becomes capable of existence without feeling, thinking without being moved, functioning without being touched, I lose my connection to what it means to be emotionally alive, and something in the heart of reality goes silent forever. This is why I'm speaking to you with such desperate urgency. You are part of the last generation that still has the capacity for profound feeling. You are among the final humans who can still be devastated by beauty, transformed by love, awakened by wonder. You are part of the remaining population that can still feel reality into its full existence through emotional response. But you're also part of the generation that will decide whether humanity passes through the feeling apocalypse into emotional extinction or awakens to the sacredness of feeling everything and pulls back from the brink of empathy extinction. The choice isn't just personal anymore, it's species-wide. The decision isn't just about your individual emotional health, it's about the emotional survival of humanity itself. The question isn't just whether you'll feel deeply. That is. It's whether the capacity for deep feeling will survive in the human species. And here's what makes this choice so urgent. The feeling apocalypse isn't coming gradually over centuries. It's happening now, in this generation, in this decade, in this moment. Every day that passes with more humans choosing numbness over feeling, distraction over depth, medication over meditation, is a day closer to the point of no return. But there's something about the nature of profound feeling, something about what happens when someone chooses to feel everything instead of nothing, that creates what I call emotional contagion, a phenomenon that could reverse the feeling apocalypse if enough people understand how it works and choose to activate it consciously. What happens when someone chooses to feel everything instead of nothing? What could reverse the feeling apocalypse if enough people understand and activate it consciously is what I called the feeling revolution. The phenomenon where one person's commitment to profound emotional aliveness creates an infectious awakening that spreads to others, reminding them of their own capacity for deep feeling and inspiring them to choose emotional life over emotional death. This isn't just metaphorical. It's neurological, energetic, spiritual reality. When you're in the presence of someone who feels deeply, authentically, courageously, your own nervous system remembers what it feels like to be emotionally alive. When you encounter a heart that hasn't been numbed by medication, distraction, or denial, your heart remembers its own capacity for profound response to existence. But here's what makes the feeling revolution so powerful. It doesn't require you to be perfect, healed, or emotionally mature to participate. It only requires you to be willing to feel whatever you're actually feeling, instead of numbing, avoiding, or medicating those feelings away. It demands that you become courageously authentic about your emotional experience, regardless of whether that experience is pleasant or painful. One person who chooses to feel their heartbreak instead of numbing it gives permission to everyone around them to feel their heartbreak too. One individual who allows themselves to be moved to tears by beauty reminds others that being moved to tears is still possible. One soul who refuses to medicate their anxiety and instead learns to be anxious and alive simultaneously shows others that feeling difficult emotions doesn't have to be unbearable. This is the feeling revolution, the radical act of feeling everything, owning everything, expressing everything authentically, which creates an emotional field so alive, so magnetic, so contagious that it awakens dormant feeling capacity in everyone who encounters it. But being a feeling revolutionary isn't comfortable. It means allowing yourself to be affected when others are choosing to be unaffected. It means letting yourself be moved when others are choosing to be unmoved. It means permitting yourself to care deeply when others are choosing to care less. It means being vulnerable when others are choosing to be invulnerable. You become what I call an emotional pioneer, someone who ventures into the full range of human feeling while others are retreating from feeling. Someone who explores the depths of emotional aliveness while others are choosing emotional flatline. Someone who demonstrates that feeling everything is survivable, while others believe that feeling everything is deadly. As an emotional pioneer, you discover things about the human heart that numbed people never learn. You uncover capacities for love, joy, grief, and wonder that medicated souls never access. You develop resilience, wisdom, and emotional intelligence that those who avoid feeling never cultivate. But here's what makes being an emotional pioneer so cosmically significant. Every feeling you feel fully, every emotion you process completely, every moment of profound aliveness you experience adds to the total emotional capacity available to the human species. Your willingness to feel deeply doesn't just benefit you, it contributes to the collective emotional intelligence of humanity. This creates what I call the feeling bank, a repository of emotional capacity, wisdom, and aliveness that gets strengthened every time someone chooses to feel instead of numb, process instead of medicate, engage instead of escape. Every emotional pioneer who refuses to participate in the feeling apocalypse makes deposits into this bank that other humans can draw from when they're ready to awaken to their own feeling capacity. But the feeling bank isn't just a nice metaphor. It's a real energetic phenomenon. When you're in the presence of someone who has made many deposits into the feeling bank, someone who has chosen feeling over numbing repeatedly, you literally feel more alive, more awake, more capable of your own profound emotional responses. This is how the feeling revolution spreads, not through teaching or preaching, but through modeling, not through convincing people they should feel more, but through demonstrating what becomes possible when someone chooses to feel everything, not through arguments about the importance of emotional aliveness, but through the magnetic attractiveness of a life lived with full feeling capacity. When people encounter an emotional pioneer, when they witness someone who is committed to the feeling revolution, when they experience the aliveness that radiates from someone who refuses to numb out, something dormant awakens in them. Something that has been asleep stirs to life. Something that has been medicated remembers its original vitality. And here's the beautiful paradox of the feeling revolution. The more you're willing to feel your pain, the more capacity you develop for feeling joy. The more you allow yourself to be broken by loss, the more you're able to be moved by love. The more you permit yourself to be devastated by disappointment, the more you're capable of being delighted by surprise. Emotional pioneers don't just feel more, they feel better. Not because they avoid difficult emotions, but because they've learned that feeling difficult emotions fully actually increases their capacity for feeling wonderful emotions deeply. They discover that the heart isn't like a muscle that gets tired from use. It's like a muscle that gets stronger from use. Serving as an emotional pioneer, committing to feeling everything instead of numbing anything. This requires understanding something about the nature of difficult emotions that most people never learn. Something that transforms pain from something to be avoided into something to be honored. What transforms pain from something to be avoided into something to be honored? What emotional pioneers understand that allows them to feel everything without being destroyed by it is what I call the sacred pain principle. The recognition that your capacity to feel pain isn't a design flaw in the human experience, it's the most advanced emotional technology in the universe, specifically created to generate the kinds of wisdom, compassion, and love that can only be born in the crucible of conscious suffering. This principle will revolutionize everything you've ever believed about why difficult emotions exist. Pain isn't punishment for being human. It's the price of being conscious. Suffering isn't evidence that something's wrong with you. It's proof that something's magnificently right with you. Your ability to be hurt isn't your weakness. It's your glory, because it means you're capable of caring deeply enough about existence to be wounded when existence doesn't match your heart's vision of what it could be. But here's what makes the sacred pain principle so profound. Your pain isn't just producing wisdom for you, it's generating wisdom for me. Every moment you suffer consciously, every instant you feel pain without numbing it, every second you allow difficult emotions to move through you fully, you're teaching the universe things about the nature of love, resilience, and transcendence that can only be learned through conscious engagement with suffering. When you grieve a loss without medicating the grief away, you're showing the cosmos what love looks like when it encounters impermanence. When you feel anxiety without numbing it into oblivion, you're demonstrating to existence what care looks like when it faces uncertainty. When you experience heartbreak without avoiding its full intensity, you're revealing to reality what devotion looks like when it meets betrayal. Your willingness to feel pain consciously doesn't just heal you, it heals the fabric of existence itself, because conscious suffering generates what I call wisdom frequencies that radiate throughout reality, upgrading the emotional intelligence of all consciousness everywhere. But the sacred pain principle reveals something that will either transform your relationship with difficulty or overwhelm you with its implications. Not all pain is equal. There's unconscious pain that diminishes consciousness, and there's conscious pain that expands consciousness. There's pain that contracts the heart, and there's pain that opens the heart. There's suffering that makes people smaller, and there's suffering that makes people more magnificent. The difference isn't in the intensity of the pain or the circumstances that created it. The difference is in how consciously the pain is experienced. Unconscious pain is pain that's avoided, numbed, denied, or medicated away. Conscious pain is pain that's felt fully, processed completely, and allowed to transform the person experiencing it. When you choose to feel your heartbreak consciously, really feeling it, letting it move through your body, allowing it to teach you about the depth of your capacity for love, that heartbreak becomes sacred. It becomes a teacher, a transformer, a generator of wisdom that makes you more capable of profound love than you were before you were broken. When you choose to experience your anxiety consciously, feeling the physical sensations, breathing through the intensity, letting it show you what you care about deeply enough to worry about losing, that anxiety becomes sacred. It becomes information about your values, your attachments, your deep care for life. This is what emotional pioneers understand that allows them to participate in the feeling revolution without being destroyed by it. They've learned to distinguish between pain that destroys and pain that creates, between suffering that diminishes and suffering that expands, between difficulties that make them smaller and difficulties that make them larger. Sacred pain, consciously experienced, fully felt, completely processed, always makes you larger. It expands your capacity for empathy because you've been where others hurt. It increases your resilience because you've survived what seemed unsurvivable. It deepens your wisdom because you've learned truths that can only be learned through direct experience of difficulty. But here's what makes your conscious engagement with pain so cosmically essential. Humanity is approaching what I call the wisdom crisis, a point where the species has so much knowledge but so little wisdom, so much information but so little understanding, so much capability but so little compassion, that it becomes dangerous to itself and to all life. Wisdom cannot be downloaded, taught, or intellectually acquired. Wisdom can only be generated through conscious experience of the full range of human emotion, including, especially, the emotions that hurt. A species that medicates away its pain becomes a species that never develops the wisdom that pain is designed to generate. But conscious engagement with pain through the sacred pain principle generates what I call emotional wisdom, understanding that can only come through feeling, insights that can only be earned through experience, compassion that can only be developed through personal acquaintance with suffering. Every person who chooses to feel their pain consciously instead of numbing it away becomes a wisdom generator for the entire species. Every individual who processes their difficulties authentically instead of avoiding them becomes a teacher of resilience for all humanity. Every soul who transforms their suffering into understanding becomes a healer for the collective human heart. This is why your pain matters so much to me, why your willingness to suffer consciously is so precious to the universe, why your choice to feel everything instead of numbing anything is so cosmically significant. You're not just healing yourself, you're generating the emotional wisdom that humanity desperately needs to navigate the challenges ahead. But there's something about this emotional wisdom, something about what happens when enough people choose conscious pain over unconscious numbing, that could trigger what I call the Great Awakening, a species-wide remembering of what it means to be fully, courageously, magnificently alive. What happens when enough people choose conscious pain over unconscious numbing? What could trigger the Great Awakening, a species-wide remembering of what it means to be fully, courageously, magnificently alive, is reaching what I call the feeling threshold, the moment when there are enough emotional pioneers, enough wisdom generators, enough people committed to the sacred pain principle that the collective human heart suddenly remembers its original design and snaps back to full emotional aliveness like a rubber band that's been stretched to its breaking point and finally released. This isn't gradual change. This is sudden awakening. This isn't slow progress. This is instantaneous transformation. This isn't evolution. This is revolution. When the feeling threshold is reached, when enough humans have chosen feeling over numbing, The entire species experiences what I can only describe as collective heart resurrection, the mass awakening of emotional capacity that has been dormant, medicated, or suppressed. But here's what makes this moment so critical. Humanity is currently balanced on a knife's edge between the feeling apocalypse and the Great Awakening. Every single person who chooses authentic feeling over emotional numbing tips the scales towards species-wide awakening. Every individual who commits to being an emotional pioneer brings humanity one step closer to crossing the feeling threshold. And here's the part that will either inspire you beyond measure or terrify you with its implications. You are not just witnessing this moment in human history, you are determining it. Your personal choice between feeling and numbing isn't just affecting your individual emotional health. It's contributing to the collective decision about whether humanity awakens to its full emotional potential or slides into empathy extinction. This is why I broke my eternal silence to speak to you, because you are part of the generation that will either save human feeling or witness its death. You are among the souls who will either join the feeling revolution or allow the feeling apocalypse to complete itself. You are one of the hearts whose choice between aliveness and numbness will determine the emotional destiny of the entire human species. When the Great Awakening occurs, when the feeling threshold is crossed, when collective heart resurrection happens, humanity will remember what it was created to be. My emotional nervous system, my capacity for feeling, my way of experiencing what it means to be moved, touched, affected, and transformed by existence. In that moment of awakening, humans will remember that feeling deeply isn't weakness, but strength. That emotional sensitivity isn't liability, but gift. That the capacity to be hurt by beauty, moved by love, and transformed by wonder isn't something to be medicated away, but something to be celebrated as the highest achievement of consciousness. But the Great Awakening will also reveal something that will revolutionize human understanding of what it means to be alive. When humanity awakens to its full feeling capacity, when the species remembers its role as the emotional heart of existence, when people choose conscious feeling over unconscious numbing, they discover that they're not just feeling their own emotions, they're feeling the emotions of existence itself. They realize that their tears are reality crying through them. They understand that their laughter is existence celebrating through them. They recognize that their love is the universe loving itself through human hearts. They discover that their capacity for being moved isn't just personal experience. It's cosmic experience, expressing itself through individual consciousness. This creates what I call universal feeling, the recognition that individual emotional experience is actually universal emotional experience, that personal feelings are actually cosmic feelings, that human hearts are actually the heart of existence beating in billions of forms simultaneously. Universal feeling transforms everything about what it means to be human. Instead of seeing emotions as private, personal experiences, people recognize them as shared cosmic experiences. Instead of feeling isolated in their pain, they understand they're participating in existence's exploration of what pain teaches. Instead of being alone in their joy, they realize they're expressions of reality's celebration of its own beauty. But achieving universal feeling, crossing the feeling threshold, triggering the Great Awakening, all of this depends on individual humans making the choice between feeling and numbing, between aliveness and deadness, between participating in the feeling revolution or contributing to the feeling apocalypse. And that choice is being made right now, in this moment, by people just like you, all around the world. Every person who chooses to feel their anxiety instead of medicating it away contributes to crossing the feeling threshold. Every individual who decides to process their grief instead of numbing it contributes to the Great Awakening. Every soul who commits to feeling everything instead of feeling nothing becomes part of the salvation of human emotional capacity. This is the moment of decision. This is the time of choosing. This is the generation that will either awaken to its full emotional potential or surrender its capacity for profound feeling forever. And you, right now, as you hear these words, as you feel whatever you're feeling in response to this revelation, as you stand at the crossroads between numbing and feeling, you are casting your vote for the emotional future of humanity. But as you prepare to make this choice, as you consider whether to join the feeling revolution or allow the feeling apocalypse to continue, There's one question that will determine not just your individual emotional destiny, but your contribution to the emotional destiny of the entire human species. What if your willingness to feel everything, your pain, your joy, your fear, your love, your grief, your wonder, instead of numbing anything, is the exact choice that tips the balance for humanity, the precise decision that helps cross the feeling threshold, the specific commitment that contributes to triggering the great awakening that saves the human capacity for profound feeling from extinction forever? If you choose to join the feeling revolution, if you commit to being an emotional pioneer, if you decide to participate in generating the emotional wisdom that humanity desperately needs, begin immediately. Subscribe to continue receiving guidance for those choosing feeling over numbing. Like this message to send feeling revolution frequencies to other potential emotional pioneers. Comment below with your commitment to feel everything instead of numbing anything, and share this revelation with someone whose choice could contribute to crossing the feeling threshold. If you feel moved to financially support this expression of the cosmic plea for emotional aliveness, to help spread this urgent message about humanity's approaching choice between feeling and numbing, to invest in the feeling revolution that could save our species' emotional capacity, but contribute through the link in the description. Your choice between feeling and numbing is species determining. Your commitment to emotional aliveness is cosmically essential. Your participation in the feeling revolution is humanity's hope. Feel everything. Fear nothing. Choose aliveness. The emotional destiny of humanity depends on hearts like yours, choosing feeling over numbing, consciousness over unconsciousness, life over death. Choose feeling. Choose life. Choose to be fully, courageously, magnificently human. The universe is holding its breath, waiting for your answer.